Good afternoon, friends. We're going to get started. It's 4:30. Before we do, I just want to take a quick moment of silence to acknowledge what county or community was through this past and the loss of which we lost Silas Anderson. So, if we could just honor them and all of you or what you are going through with our kids to figure this out and just take a moment. Okay. Well, thank you again. Good to see everybody back. Last time we were competing against the bad weather, now we're competing against the good weather. As always, we have a couple of things to get started. We have the slides here. We have the really encourage you to follow. We're going to have a lot of interactive, nice things to go through. Heritage, Heritage, ISD. That's the ISD session 2. This is for those who haven't. This is the same story we did right before we did in the session. We're missing a couple that haven't done so. Just take a look at that out. But today is session 2 of 4, and we're going to be focusing on design. We're double checking right now. This is recording. We messed up our recording last time, so those who aren't able to make it today could get caught up. Let's see, we're sharing an audio, and I don't see anybody online yet. And is there anybody here that wasn't here the first time? Okay, well, welcome. And we'll get you caught up too when we break out. So just let us know if anything this makes sense. But for the rest of you, just a quick refresher. These are the slide deck that we talked about last time. I just want to, since it's been a month, we can kind of go through at a very high level what we talked about last time. Talk about the role of the AI shepherd and our responsibility to help students with AI literacy. These are the big 12 skills of thinking about what AI literacy means. So that Bloom's taxonomy, there's one thing about understanding. Today, we're going to probably come up to creating. Hopefully, you might get some experience of creating your own personal AI. We talked a little bit about the literature. We talked about the harmful and helpful impacts of AI on learning based on the literature, and you have to look at both sides of the coin there. We talked about the different foundational AI models, ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, and since most of you are in Google schools, Gemini is the one we're focusing the most on, but they're all very similar, have a lot of same features. We talked about the data protection. Remember, if you're using your school district.edu Gmail, then you are going to get some more advanced privacy controls of putting some sensitive data in there. If you're using your personal Gmail, that's not necessarily the case. The things you put in there are going to be trained up to the model. And then we talked about the Canvas course and the badges. We got you set up on your learning journals and courses. And that's another thing. If anybody's still having any snags with the learning journal or the course, we can troubleshoot you during the work time. But we spent a good chunk of our time going through these 10 challenges just to get you familiar with the basics of chat, thread, one-shot, two-shot, right? And you're doing some of your text-to-image prompting to get you up and running. So that was just a quick refresher of what we did last time. Kevin, do you want to share some of the spotlights you found?
Sure, we have Stephen's names there. So Jamie, the cool looking cheap all that stuff. Not monster with it, that's it's like a nice monster. Then Meredith had the nice including the nice swing not in nature created. We looked at using it with PDFs to build it. In the food chat or just pretty sure. The for actually write an email. Maybe before this really boss, which you do. I'm just theoretically thinking about it. But it does a great job of things like that. So it's not to be treated before, but it does a good job of things like that. You can make another example, if you actually make a blue minded a little bit of that. So it's really great job in your journals as you did them. We appreciate it. And if you haven't, please do it as well. It's time to catch up. If not, those who did those, we've got they're graded, and you should have received a visual badge, the one of them in the first thing. So if you quickly you download that and you draft it on LinkedIn or wherever, you're ready to go.
Okay, again, the big picture plan is learn last month, design this month. Next month, we're going to get deeper into assessment, again, assignments, and then the following month by teaching in the day-to-day, so that full reflection. And again, each workshop we try to move through grounding in literature and the research, and talk about the pedagogy, and then we bring in the technology. So our session goals for today are helping you think about designing AI integrated learning experiences that align to your clear instructional goals and student outcomes. Hopefully, we can help you apply AI to some advanced unit and lesson planning, and continue to network and collaborate and share insights and best practices across schools. So that's our rough agenda for today: the research, the pedagogy, and technology, and then we're going to do that hands-on tonight. Again, there's the Canvas course if you need to get any of the resources from before, and an overview of the badges. So to start with the research connection, Kevin put together some nice collections, some stats and practicalities.
So I tried to find a lot of stats on K-12 because there's lots of stats out there, just regular adults and kids and things like that. But I really wanted to make it so that it was very unique to, not unique, but very much aligned to what you're doing. So a lot of key takeaways, from school work perspective, a lot of people use it more for personal use than for school work use. There is that digital divide, which becomes now the AI divide. For those in rural areas and families who make less than $50,000 a year likely have less access. So there's that equity issue going on. There is a correlation between parent usage frequency and school engagement, as well as a correlation between the student AI familiarity and concern, which is sort of interesting that if students go through, if they are very familiar with AI, they have more of a concern about AI and use of it against them. So I had never had thought about that before. It's very interesting to see that. I've got the slides and I'm going to really look at it. More K-12 leaders and teachers believe AI is written into the curriculum. The leaders have like a pretty high thinking approach of like, I think it was like 80% think that it's integrated in the curriculum. Teachers are like at 58% or something. So it's very interesting now that differentiation between the two. School policy has been slowly allowing over the last few years, allowing AI. There's still a lot that don't. There's a lot that don't even have a policy on that. And teachers are less confident in their use of AI than the leaders. And the three research sources that 2025 I picked up were the CTC, and then the Microsoft and Pew Research, which I put in. The N number was not high on the ones from the CTC, but they were very specific to teachers and leaders. So that's why I think that the Pew and the Microsoft was really good. So it sort of goes back to the use of AI. You see how the overall use, teachers, 85% actually use it, and students and parents do as well. But they most primarily use it for personal use. Now, the teachers, there wasn't enough information to go through and identify what the teacher usage was. But I guess around here, do you guys use it more personally, or do you use it more in school?
I say we personally have used it
In the classroom.
Yeah.
Does everybody else pretty much that way too? Yeah. Honestly, I probably use it more at work/school than I do at home. Yeah. So, I mean, these numbers are still pretty high with the usage in personal as well as the parents in the school work side. I can see that as well. And it probably depends upon his parents have picked up that. So The status of use with parents. And there's a pretty big distinct difference between the rural side and the suburban and urban side. And as well as in terms of the under $50,000. So there is some net divide, which has happened over the years anyway, the digital divide. So that's something that is not really surprising, but it's something that I really need to start thinking about, especially if AI is going to be one of those tools that you think it is that will be used as more of a tool in everyday life. The frequency of AI usage, this sort of focuses more on the how the frequency is, how it correlates with schools, the child's environment, the school. So if the school is pushing it or is proposing to use it, giving guidance to use it, then more than likely the parent will be using it as well. I don't know if that is correlated to the school districts that maybe have a higher average amount of money that the parents make. I don't know, but there could be a definite correlation between that. So if they frequently use it, the logic of it is that the child's school probably has given good guidance on them as well. In teachers' level of concern, so teachers usually, if you have less concern if they've used it more so, which would somewhat make sense in that it's going to be less of a distraction as well if you used it more and more helpful in time consuming. So those who haven't used it before, and we actually have found this in our caddies in the day, and those who haven't used it before are pretty negative about it. But when they use it, they're like, oh, okay, this is not quite as bad as I thought it was. So the idea of actually just using it really helps. Students, this is that one we talked about earlier, where students actually feel like they're less connected to their teacher, and they're more exposed to extreme medical views, and they worry about whether the AI tool will treat them fairly. So the ones who actually are using it more are the ones that have those higher levels of concern. So that's sort of an interesting concept and nothing I really had thought about for it. And this is something that I want to ask you about because this is from Microsoft. They're showing that this is a direct look at schools and K-12 schools. So they're saying that that the school districts, the leaders are saying that they agree that their curriculum has been is integrated with AI. Educators do not, which is that's teachers. So I guess, and also you can see some of the other ones as well, that there's a distinct difference between what leaders are saying and what actual teachers are saying. So I don't know if that's the case for everyone here in your schools. Leaders are sort of like, yay, we're going really great. And you guys are like, what, really? How is it around here? Is it similar to that or? Okay.
We've got a lot of great when it comes with AI things in it, but I'm so overwhelmed just teaching curriculum and everything else that that's just like extra that the teachers don't do. So, like I know, like our reading program from my perspective is my they have AI stuff in it, but it's like a secondary thing that
And a lot of places are going to find there's a lot of
it has AI built into the science platform.
everything's being built in.
But again, it's newer, and so a lot of times it's part of that. It's not a part of the actual curriculum. So that's why a lot of people don't know about it.
Well, and I mean, for myself personally, I'm just not, I don't know enough about it yet. So I think there's a lot of teachers that, younger teachers, maybe in their teaching programs, they're starting to have this integrated within, but I just, I don't have enough exposure to it to use it as it probably could be used very well.
You know, my wife and my daughter will teach middle school, high school. And yeah, they don't, it's not at all. My wife is a math teacher, my daughter is ELA art, so nothing involved. So, and that's in the whole school basically is that way. So I think maybe our leaders are a little bit more overconfident than what really is happening. Some use cases, these are ones you probably are familiar with. You know, basically the big one that a lot of people like to push is the freeing up time to investment with the value areas, which is very true, you can do that. But you do have to have like a up front where you have to learn about the tool and how to use it. And so there's some upfront costs to that. And it could be used to help answer student questions. And the question is, do you use it yourself to answer the student's question, or do you tell them to use it? And I don't know, do you guys have it turned on, Gemini turned on for your students? Yeah. Because usually I know from doing that for a couple schools that you actually have to go through and physically turn a switch and say, we read that, which means you should be going back to the parents and saying, is it okay if we turn this on? So that's the sort of the problem, not problem, I guess. But if we want to end up integrating AI, then we have to be able to teach it to our students as well. But teachers have to learn first, though, too. So you guys have to get in front end of it before we get introduced to them. But they are learning it regardless of.
Yeah, is that something that is? You know, I feel like when we got Chromebooks, then they had to be okayed by parents for the kids to do that, and we definitely had some that opted out, so. Is that something school districts are finding that they have to allow an opt out?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's some of the research I've done. A lot of school districts are doing that. And that opt-out part makes it hard, because then you have to go through, figure out, okay, if they can't do this, and what can we give them to do? And it becomes very hard to manage. You know, I think you guys have a lot going on anyway, then they put through to manage that as well. It becomes an extra burden, which is not really anything you want to do, so.
If it's part of the curriculum, how are we, I don't know, because I'm not in here, so I'm doing industry. Like, how do where do they get to opt out of curriculum?
I don't know about.
If AI is part of the curriculum, then how can they opt out of the AI?
I just know that when we did, when they didn't have Chromebook access, like you would have to.
So they could have opted out of Chromebooks?
Yes. Yeah, and so you didn't have to find whether it's printing it out or.
Which year, because I mean, no ideas of what it is to it, I think, so that's the community influence.
Yeah, it's like having an accommodation basically, which it's a different combination, but still it's a combination you have to be burdened with, which is not a good thing. So there's some use cases are the primary ones that teachers came up with. It's called this research they did. And it's sort of hard to read, but it basically goes through the educators and leaders looking and seeing what they feel is like the best or the highest concerns, and what players achieved. And this is based upon they get to choose the top 3 choices. So this is the number that chooses out of 300, the top 3 choices. That's up. So it's pretty interesting. And these are things probably as educators, definitely plagiarism, achieve, privacy, security concerns, potentially students becoming overly dependent on the AI tools, those are huge things. And we have from the legal perspective, misinformation, and you don't have the right training, about the percentage, which probably is, teachers that as soon as well. Being able to fix and generate inappropriate content, the lack of resources, impacting students' health and well-being, and access, we're talking about earlier as well. So those are things that are huge that are part of going on AI. And these are still very new in this ramping up of it that we've not seen at this point figured out what is the best way to do some of these things. So these are definitely concerns that would be the next year and year after because the CT we have certain schools that are sort of taking the lead in doing it and becoming more integrated. We're sort of guinea pigs, and then the rest of us will come along later after they can involve the problems and issues. The student concerns, and we actually hear about this at Nerdy as well. They're really concerned about being accused of failures and cheating. So that is a huge thing. When teachers are thinking also, what is the difference between they have a hard time really understanding and knowing the difference between what is they actually seeing there's no tools that actually help us figure that out either. There's nothing that is 100% maybe 90% really interesting participating to figure it out. Because it's always the community target. Was trying to keep going and put something else out, something else out. So I think students really very concerned about that. We don't want to be accused of cheating when they did. And then as it goes really so a lot of students just leave it alone and don't use it at all. Because of that. but they're still potentially being accused, so they're very conscious of that and trying to keep on top of it. And, you know, we've been on the guide tools, I think we do have some student delight over doing that. You know, and, the school, you know, my daughter teaches that they have that concern about often two students that seem to be doing really well on the homework and stuff, but they actually can't do it in class then. So when you have a test, and that's why it's a hybrid school, so they end up having, one day a week when they go in, that's what they do about testing, and that's when they figure out who actually gets it and who doesn't, so that's something that's definitely a huge concern for as well. And the policy side, you can see how generally permitted has definitely gone up. But the thing that's concerning is no policy. So no policy is pretty much you're saying you don't know what to do. And that's the wrong thing. You have to say no or say yes. You just can't like being in the middle is not a really good place to be. And that's going up, which is not good. So, but admitting it is going up as well, so that's a good thing too. But still, there's going to be at least abandoning this tool is going now, or not really down, but going down. But the problem is if you're saying it's not banned, but it has no policy, then it has to be so. And the confidence to use AI. So once again, we have that difference between the teachers and the leaders and even the students. So I went through and just highlighted the areas that, you know, the neutral someone and we told, you know, probably agree to see the differences. And it's pretty substantial, 66% have to do with leadership and 97%. So in here, how do you guys feel about how confident are you and are you strongly confident? So if I were to like raise your hand if you're strongly confident, you say, yes, I'm good at this. I wonder if you're like the next level of that, which is I'm pretty good at it. Yeah. And you move to where you're like, yeah, I don't have to be really dangerous. No. And so some of it is maybe you're stronger disagree about that. So a lot of it becomes just like any other tool. You got to learn the tool. It takes time to do that. And it's an investment, and that's the part that I think is hard to get to because you've got so much other things going on and that trying to go through and invest doing that while you're doing everything else to try to keep up. It's hard to do. So I think school districts have to come up with a way to do that. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. We're going to be at that no policy or banning stuff because educators, leaders are not really going to have an idea of how to do it. And it's a tough environment, budget wise, stuff like that too. So it's not the best of all worlds to do this in. So, and so the trust part was a huge thing too. So of course, experts, I think that, did you trust in important decisions? I know, Allison probably different on this. I would not at this point myself. Alex may, you give me more than the,
I mean, it depends on how confident,
yeah.
they spend a lot of time doing more detailed prompts and getting data to help me make good decisions. If I want to stop being confident, just
I trusted it to a point that I actually do a lot of fact checking just to verify because I met the persons. And this is what people think about the impact might be on thinking creatively or forming relationships. So it's what was going to very self-development. So you can see how it's all on the worst side. So that says that the guys are not think about the AI is not the same kind of impact. And I think as we move along, AI will get a better feel of people start to trust it more. And there still will be a point where you're not going to get trust that you have. There's has to be some human involvement too. And that's the part that I think people are scared about is turning it loose to everything. I'm scared about that as well. And this is sort of just like from peer research. It's sort of like the view of the impact of society and understanding what AI is by different. It's all through the college or high school last age. So it's pretty interesting to be able to go through and look at that and see that, at least they have, understanding of what it is. It's fairly good. It's very good. So that's not bad. But we're still not, as far as what we should be. But it still is pretty interesting compared to where we were probably even a year ago. Let me pass it back over to Alex now. Actually, any questions before we move on? Should ask that.
I don't know if this is something, I have to look back through the slides from before, but in talking and listening to you, I just wonder if at our school, are there certain AI like flaw or whatever it happen to be that are not conducive to certain content areas?
Yeah, there's certain tools that you could say on that certain things. So one is very good at coding. One is used by significant amount of coders. They really made that process really easy. The cloud also is very good for regional things too. And I've used it for different things. I went through once and started comparing, had 3 browsers open, actually 4, and compared the 4 movie lines with the same font to see how it used it. And at that point in time, there was different differences, and that actually got checks and things better. I did that not too long ago, about 3 or 4 months ago, and actually like Gemini better. Gemini has really increased a lot over the last year. And I think that is a huge thing that goes forward because we all have access in so many ways. People. So that's something that you all should have access to. If you don't, your school administrator should be able to give you access to Gemini. And you have the actual, the pro, or the best version that's out there, and also your data within Excel is not used to retrain the cloud again, which is really the key we don't want there because they have the data, we use it for retraining and all the same. So it's best at this point, you have Gemini, it's a great tool. It may not be the best for everything, but it's pretty good at what it does for most things. I think in the rankings, it even shows Gemini, 3 different versions that it has in the top 10 of the rankings and things. But if you're looking at specific areas, look back at the slides from last time, there is one that was ranking, and it does it by different areas as well. So I don't think it ranks anything by the teaching and education. But maybe that was good.
I think it'd be the LMS admittedly one side of it is first section that constantly track these models are coming out every couple of months and I go back and so in some of like the material sciences and STEM fields, some of them but the rest just going back and forth. I would say the one using the most has the most memory and they have better interested in better might get better results history. And then today we're actually going to talk about a feature called guided learning. Gemini and ChatGPT have been designed for students and learning that the other platforms don't have. And we're also talking about creating our own chatbots that what we want. Right. So I really like your question. There's no perfect answer to it, but hopefully you'll see maybe you might be able to create a chatbot that's tailored for each one.
And there's the differences between it's called random, where even if they're using the wrong resources, rather than using the raw resources of the elements. So you can actually go through and say, I don't want to look at just this resources from this and this one. And that's the only module of the text file. It doesn't go through the variety that really just that. So that would be the ones runs through to deal with that. And also the web tool will show you. You show what's the level there, you should not get it absolutely. Any questions, Anders? Your question? Okay, I'm going to talk a little about the lesson plan, but I know you have like veteran lesson planners. Don't need to know about how to lesson plan, but I'm curious to see again, what's your current practice? How many of you are using AI to help with the lesson plans and games? Okay, and I hear some of the ways that you're
So I use it a lot to help really to hone in on what I want the lesson to look like. So I use the ChatGPT a lot I say what I want and then I just keep modifying it until I get it to be exactly how I want it to be. So I can't find it necessarily on teacher pay teacher, but I have an idea, and so it'll say, okay, I have these resources, I wanna do this, and it'll come up with a lesson, and then I just keep modifying it until it gets exactly what I want.
Great, so
Yeah, so it saves a ton of time. I was pretty excited when I.
We're required to use plan book for our lesson plans, so I literally, it saved me a ton of time just using ChatGPT to help me. Hey, create a copy and paste ready to put in my plan book, because plan book is really not something for me, it's for admin to look at, and it saves me a lot of time. I'm a newer mom, and I used to spend all day Sunday lesson planning, and this cut down so much time so that I can spend more time with my family, so I'm super grateful for that.
Every flashbacks, every student, right, and that's the best,
Yes.
turning it in,
Yes.
seeing.
Yeah.
Oh,
The only part to plan book is you can copy it from one year to the next, so next year, you're gonna be great. You have a brand new reading curriculum, though, so I have to like review, but it's fine, for next year, I'll be good. Yes, next year, I'm great.
So you're getting some good verbiage and language.
Yes.
It's just.
Yeah.
So you know that you want to just.
Yeah, just to save the time.
I'm using it to create small groups and extra manifest to do in-step review of material.
Okay. So actually creating instructional resources and
Yes.
practice practice.
Yes.
Okay.
I use it for a lot of different things. If I want to try a Google Classroom post for me, I just tell it, here's the resource, make the Google Classroom post for me. And it sounds nice, it's great. And then, lots of times, if I think of what I want for my curriculum, if I have to write something, usually it's like a step-by-step guide that I need for the students to be able to use whatever visual resource that they need to allow me to see.
Any others? Any other questions?
I use very and so like it's interactive slides. So I use that to build lessons. Sometimes if I know we're doing author's purpose and I don't want to come up with all the texts and all the stuff, it just comes up with it for me and builds the interactive slideshow that we go through the lesson, and it's engaging for the kids and it takes me a long time.
And I think you all know this, but I used to teach a lot of pre-service teachers, and it's funny the default maybe experiences. I know I did this as a working teacher. Like you're so into the day to day that you just teach this lesson and get to the lesson. After the whole, oh wait, I gotta do an assessment, and you go back and make assessment, and then oh wait, we have these goals that we're supposed to do. And what? So it's kind of like the day by day backwards. There's with this famous Scott educational researcher Wiggins came up with the backwards design. He says we really should logically most people do this now, like focus on what your goals are, and then think about what evidence you need to show proof that you're working on those assessments, and then you create the lessons, right? So if you begin with the end in mind, like where are my goals, and then the assessments, then it helps you, kind of unit plans, and then go down to your lesson plans, and then teach them for your assessments, and everything's aligned to the goals. And what I've noticed is that if you really stay true to that with your lesson plan and your unit planning, and you talk to ChatGPT that way, don't just give me a lesson today, but let's see now, let's see the whole unit. And it's like not just giving me what I'm going to do today, but like let's plan out this next week. Like let's see what that assessment, the study guides. Now my classes are going to be aligned to the study. So that's just one big principle I want you to think about when you're experimenting today in a couple applications on how and if AI can help you with your lesson planning. So if you're interested, we have a guide for ACE at Notre Dame that we share with teachers on how to do long range planning, unit planning, lesson planning. Some key questions, what is it that I want my students to know or be able to do? That's your objectives. How will I know that I do them? That's your assessments. How will I activate the higher knowledge? And this is a question I do a lot with my lessons. I still kind of do a little bit of lesson planning in at college level too. Mostly it's like a Google Voice, Gemini voice conversations in the car. Pretend like you're a co-teacher with me and I'm talking through the lesson I'm going to do. Hey, what particular instructional strategy should I do for this type of lesson? What are some good discussion questions? These are some questions that I'll ask, and I'll go back and forth with AI to help me write a better lesson plan, which I don't have the time. And I remember my Sundays too, just spending so much time trying to rewrite and create these lesson plans. And I know you guys have to be aligned to the curriculum and the standards as well. If you get a moment, I really suggest this article. It's kind of old, 2024, but this guy, Leon Cruz, he's one of the famous AI and education speaker. And I keep on coming back to this because I think it shows what we're trying to get to today is getting to a black belt level of using AI as an instructor to help you be more productive and creative to write better lessons. So I kind of made my own Gemini infographic and I walked through it. You know, one step, and some of you who are just starting out, you might just want to be focusing on level one. Hey, write me a 60-minute lesson plan for my fourth grade Michigan history class today. You know, like I said, it'll just draft something. You can do the one shot, or you can go back and forth. The second level I challenge you to go to is, and you'll see this with some of the challenges. It's not just for the content, but it can be for attachments. And hey, I'm giving you a slide header. Hey, I'm going to download the Michigan State Standards for history, and I'm going to put my final assessment that I have to do. I've uploaded all these documents, and then I do the prompt. You're going to get a much better quality because you're getting it context, right? So I really want to push you guys at least to this level. And then those who really want to go for this is where it gets interesting. So, you know, like we said, there's foundational models, Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT. But within each of these models, you have the ability to make your own chatbot. ChatGPT calls them GPTs, Gemini calls them gems, and Claude calls them projects, and it's shown. But what you're basically doing is you're creating a chat thread that has certain context, certain knowledge that it's going to be using from, and it has a system level prompt that is at a meta level that it gives us. And I'll give you some examples of this in a moment. So again, that's what we're trying to do is level 1, level 2, level 3. And it'll make more sense when we show you some examples of these Gemini gems. But again, I hope you try these out because again, I've seen with my lesson prep, it just saves so much time. And I have this chat thread and I go back and I discuss, and I'm teaching better lessons and creative lessons that I have done in years. I'm not just recycling it, I'm actually because I have the time, it's so much easier to do it this way. So I hope you find some use there. Again, I'm throwing out some terms I want to be very clear with. So we talk about the foundational models. The chatbot is an AI system that interacts with conversations, to your questions, and generate responses to your system text. An educational chatbot is just something that we educators do to intentionally design this chatbot for the purpose of teaching and learning, to guide their thinking and provide staff with it. As I said before, Gem, and we focus on today, is a tool within Gemini that allows you to make a custom educational chatbot. Right? Again, in your Gemini page, you have all the threads, right? All the different conversations. Notebook element just mentioned. I think next month we'll show this. The teaser for this Notebook LLM, if you haven't played around, it's very, very powerful tool. Instead of saying like LLM, large language model, it's a small language model. Like Kevin said, you can take PDFs or whatever the content you got, put it into this notebook, and the AI interacts only what's in that notebook. It doesn't, like I said, doesn't put stuff on the outside. So again, we have professors that are doing, they're taking their course, maybe so just putting their lecture slides, putting their curriculum in it, and it's only working with that. And now you have a tailored AI, and you can do things like make a podcast to understand it, or make slides, or make flashcards. So it's a very, very powerful sub LLM that you can train with its own knowledge. I'm about to show you this too. A lot of people don't know about this. It just came out a year ago. There's a little tool button on ChatGPT and Gemini that allows you to go into guided learning, which this is what OpenAI and Google have done to realize they have some ethical responsibility to track this, education responsibility. Kind of carried, I got to meet the senior research designer above that, and she told me what some of these prompts are, and basically, these prompts, the system says, do not tell the students the answer. That's rule number one when you go to kind of learning. So if you hit the switch tool, it goes into the pedagogical mindset, and it won't give you the answer. It uses models to focus and try to scaffold the students, ask questions to help them get them along. So I'm about to show you this, guided learning, and then we're going to show you this, how to make the chat. All right. And then we have things like this. We talked about this last time. There's foundational models, the engines, and there's AI Lab, which is all these third-party tools that are building into the curriculum, having AI component in. And then we won't really talk about this at all. It's kind of in the future of the agentic system, actually training teachers to chat about it. And that's being developed right now in the industry. So chat thread to look at LM, to use the guided learning tool, which we're doing today, bringing the chatbot, which we got today. We'll just be aware of the spectrum of different levels that we're working with in here. This is going to really get you to a high level. So first, let's go into Google Gemini. I have a couple undergraduate research assistants, and one of them, Evarista, put this together for me for chemistry department. Basically, the Gemini study learning tool, it guides as your learning partner. It gives step-by-step explanations, schematic questioning, and scaffolds. It'll ask follow-up questions. It gives you more practice and self-checks. It can change the style of learning. Do you want more visual explanations, summaries? And it's supposed to increase active learning. So this was a chemistry problem in Gen Chem that he had trouble with. He took a picture, he pasted that in. And if you can see here, that's your standard landing page. When you click on that tool button over here, you can see it drops down, guided learning, deep research, great images. So these are special tools within the foundational. So if you click on that guided learning, that turns on the educational trigger to these toolbots. And I have a little video here that okay. That's strange. I thought it was an open video. All right, well, he just goes through this and he shows you how he got stuck on a problem, and Gemini kind of walked him through and gave him hints. So particularly in like the STEM fields like sciences or math, you might want to try this, put a question in there and see how it walks it through. For some disciplines, some professors think that this might be something that they say, students, I support this, I tried this with our class set, and this might be it. If you're going to use AI, I'd rather use guided learning mode versus just say, give me the answer, right? So it's a step in the right direction of using it. So I think we put one of the challenges to explore guided learning. But this is just a screenshot. It's saying, you know, what do you know here? What do you think about the labels? Break down the steps. It's walking you through that process. And there's some more links here if you want to learn more about guided learning mode.
How do you share that with the students so that they have to use guided learning if they don't have access to JS?
So we're going to show you in a second. When you create a gem, you can actually pick default tools. And one of the options is you can say they could use an agenda with options.
And they can use that without having access to Gemini?
No.
So we would have to have that turned on.
That's the catch.
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah. Well, the volumes are too high.
You might have to turn on
It's a short. If you guys are interested, you could see it, but
do you want me to put it on?
it's okay.
Yeah,
Really.
okay.
He just goes through the prompts and he's going through and showing you how it's walking through a problem. But again, I just encourage you to experiment. It's just clicking on the tools, clicking that bad learn mode. And again, if the students are going to use it, it may be a better way to use AI than just give you the answer. Any questions so far about guided learning or lesson planning in general before we start going into the technology and showing you how to customize it in general?
I just wonder if it's not turned on at school, then you're saying that Gemini is normally, if there's a fee with that, is that right? Or not?
You know, Gemini it's free with the Google Space for education.
But if the kids don't have it turned on at school, they wouldn't have it turned on at home either, right? It would just be,
Most of the parents have just.
okay, right, so that's what I was, because for me to say, well, it's not open at school, but you could go home and use it, but they couldn't unless they purchased it.
They actually really could use it because at this point right now, you really can't officially share. And those not say the names, your domain will be your schools.
Yeah.
I mean, like, your schools, like, India, then you can't share it next to it. There is a trick to go around that. And actually, this, and then year later, this guy has figured out how to do that. But it's, you know, technology perspective is not as hard, it's just that you have to, you know, how to do it. And use that to go through and change some of the URLs and the Google history and Facebook change. So it's a little bit harder. The way to do this.
Yeah, it's good. Hey, my daughters, they both have accounts. They're going on the ChatGPT Gemini. It's not locked, right? They're their own personal accounts, right? They're going, so this is if you're maybe a teacher at first and notice, and you know the students are going to go in, so you say, if you're going to use it, at least use this one, please.
Yeah.
Right? That's really good. And then, but what we're getting at is like, I hope in the next half a year, 2 years, schools are going to start thinking about maybe turning this up because they already have it, they're already using it, and why not use the Gemini education protected one so you can do things like this? So my prediction here today is that hopefully in 1 to 2 years, schools will start authorizing it, and when they do, these gems are going to be the first ones you're going to use. Don't use outside AI, use my AI, right? So we're kind of getting you ready what's coming. So today, we're focusing on making gems for you to help do your job. But your mind's going the right way. Is like, what can I do to make gems for my students? You have to wait for the university to the schools to turn on, or show you tasks on it. Have a copy of gem not too long, but it's not done.
So perhaps because you're helping Cass County schools, then you are able to educate people.
We talked to the assistant superintendent about, having, they actually want to meet us to meet with all the principals to try to show what's going on here. And that's going to be one of the things. Again, we may want to carefully turn on with policy, with guardrails, with the right intention, with people who go out and how to use these advanced features so we can start using it safely in my life.
I feel like they would feel more comfortable like having experts and you feel talk with them about it.
And what was one of the first couple dozen universities to turn it up, and there's so many universities that haven't done it, so we have almost a year. And I have to say, it really has changed the conversation. We all have a common platform. The professors and the students don't get safer to use that other platform than outside the platform. We can assume people have it, so now we can start integrating it into our assignments and teaching them how to use it right versus, hey, go get this private account, right? So, yeah, we're all a little bit lucky to see what can be possible in the university since the beginning.
Google Workspace, you can actually go through and turn it on for certain students or certain groups of students. So they could go through and just say, well, we never turned on just for high schoolers. So you can usually do that. So there are things you can have to do that. So that's something that can be done. Just a matter of, if you don't understand, you still have to be able to also make sure that about 2 years and students.
But I really don't get a lot of the best to understand some of this model. So again, start these conversations. We want various things. We're happy to support you with these conversations. Any other questions before Kevin would want to switch out technology, go into technology, show you behind the scenes how to create a custom channel.
So Google Gyms are a pretty cool tool. And here's some slides actually from Google for Education that are out there. These are ones that, what is a gym? It's like a customized version of Gemini. So something you stick in the Gemini, you can actually make that more of a permanent one. So there you have to go back to your chat every time. You have it available just within your own, it's called Gym. And then Gym then allows you to go through and continue just reusing it. And it really is a very useful tool to have, especially if you do something a lot, like a repeat something you do. Like, when you're going through using, create your lesson plans, not lessons, the things you have to upload all the time, plan book, yeah, the plan book. So you can actually create a gym to do that for you. And then you just go through then and use that same gym every time, rather than into the bathroom trying to find the chat you did before. You have it right there, you just go through, click on it, put in the stuff you want, go through it and spit it out for you. So it's like a time saver. And it's a custom way of doing things. And it's pre-made, there are pre-made ones out there you can play with just to see how they work. We're also going to show you another site called EduGems. It's really a pretty cool site this guy came up with that demonstrates gyms and how they work and gives you access to them as well. So you can think of creating a gym. It's like there's today's the single learning list we have. There actually is, it's called the craft, which is like you're looking at different things you're going to go through. It's an acronym for trying to make sure you get more detail into your prompts so that and then you can get like the best results you need. And so Jim actually allows you to go through and drop it in there as well as instructions, like a big prompt basically. And it's really a great way to go through and do that. I'm going to drop out and show you sort of an idea of what this looks like. So here's a gym, and this actually is from this EduGems website. And what I did was I just copied what he had. And the nice thing about that is it has all the instructions in it. So now if I want to go through and modify this, I could go through and just tweak it to exactly the way I want it to. And this is looking at very specific for the math. But you could go through and generate this and say, I want to use this particular format or this the way they created it. I want to maybe use this not for math, but maybe for ELA or something like that. So really you can go through and just modify, and you don't have to write the code yourself. It's already there. All you're going to go through is just going to modify and do some things with it. Now, something else you can do is you can use Gemini to create it for you. I've done that as well. So I had a professor come to me and say, I want to be able to go through and create this like a collaborative type, like a discussion where it forces the discussion to happen on really tough topics to talk about. And he said, I want to use it as a way to go through and make it so that students have to think about how they're going through and creating their positive and negatives for this particular topic. Because they can have music outside of class and pick a topic and come into class and talk about it. That way they're better prepared. And so I just went through and started, had a lot of different websites I found that did something very similar, but not quite exactly. And I had some information talking to him. I went through just said, this is what I'm looking for. You're a gym expert. Go through and I'm trying to create this particular thing. And I had to go through and create all the instructions for me. I just tweaked it, dropped it into the gym and created it for him. Had him test it out, and a couple of people test it out. It works great, exactly what we wanted. So
that's using the chat prompt to help me write Jen, design Jen. And see that little button? Oh, okay, maybe the question is, this is the help me write tool. If you can type something in and put it, and that's what this does. It uses the Gemini help. I can write the language. And so you can actually use AI to help those.
Yeah, I usually just straight Gemini. This is really using sort of within the Gem side, which is really a great search.
We're going to show you the options and say this. I think you said something. The guided learning mode. If you click on this default tool, you can say if you're using my gem, you have to use that one. I'm working with a chemistry professor now, so she has a notebook I learned. And that's when knowledge. You can connect the notebook LM So she's put all her lab materials in the notebook online, and she's connected that notebook together. Or you can have a Google Drive with your slides or your content and say, hey, that's the knowledge I want you to use when somebody's using the gym. And it's already given, you're giving it the best content for your users. You're giving them their content. Does that make sense? But if you don't get this normal stuff on a simple chat, you're making a chat bot engine that has a specific knowledge, using a specific tool, has the system behind the scenes prompt. That's really sharing in an educational way what we want students to do.
And then how do you share that with your other link that you give to your students?
I think that's Zoom posts, right? Yeah. So you can do it, that's a data that you know. What do you like about the dashboard? Yeah, it's just a share.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually it's up a little time to food.
So here, that is it. But like Kevin said, if you make it within your Edwardsburg.edu domain, you can only share a gem inside. Yeah, just share that. Our Notre Dame gems, you can put that out and set it as hat. Then you can change the thing about, and you can let somebody copy it.
But there's still extra steps. It's not like it's super easy to get to this, it's fascinating to happen. So, but we're getting closer. And even if they just roll this out, they'll go through it and share it, not that on the website. Things are changing quickly. Yeah, some of the ones, the preview ones are pretty cool to play with. But the story book is really sort of cool if you guys have just kind of looking at it. Yeah, we actually create a story for you with a picture book, and it's a really good job. I'm very impressed with it. I've only done like 1 and 2, but like for my granddaughter, you guys are able to think about what someone are going to be able to read for 2-year-old, and so it's very cool, easy to do. The coaches one was uses the guided learning as well. So a lot of great ideas that you can look at and see how they're done. But the other ones are you share the is that your problem?
Yeah,
Just forget where it.
yeah. I'll give you an example of mine and I can, oops. Unless you want to show your student, we have the ECT. It's in the heart of this thing. I can't just solve. You see it's behind you.
See if that zooms in.
Yeah, there it is. There you go. So I'll give you under the hood look at one of my gems. Ooh, that drawing to delete all. So I looked at the literature and I looked at across the web. I found that these are probably the most popular teaching gems or chatbots I see a lot of professors doing. In K-12 teachers. Course assistant bot, that's the example I'm going to show you in a second. Make customized tutor practice bots like I just showed you. Some people are putting their assignments into a gem and a rubric and the content and saying, hey, do your assignment, I want you to use this gem to help you walk through it. It's not going to be the answer. It'll be some basic feedback out in the rubric. Spots, for example, Cameron's talking about maybe use cases that students from simulations, cases that they have used with, and then hybrids are bringing them together. So I'll show you I'm teaching an independent undergraduate research class on frontiers in AI and education. So I have 23 students and they're going at different paces. And I have the syllabus that takes them through the literature review process. And I'm always getting questions about, simple syllabus questions. Like, let's do next week or the assignments. So I made this course assistant bot that's going to answer like 90% going to the syllabus and the right? So, and helping manage those two students, which is not with the whole class going together at the same pace, and it's already beginning to save me some time. So this is an example of it. Here they get welcomed. Hey, this is a 24/7 course-specific assistance for my course. It'll instantly answer students' questions about the syllabus, assignments, the policies, provides clear, accurate guidance based on my official course documents and the University of Notre Dame policy. So I took the bulletin of all the university register policies and the deadlines. I put that in there. I put my syllabus in there. I put the assignments. That's all the training. And then students can ask that first. And if it doesn't know it, then I'll say, go ahead and contact the professor and set up a Zoom and meet with them. I use this little template and I want to just give you the design behind it. Like, again, this is my system prompt. Here's a description that I just read that the students will see. This is the objective. So this is now in the description. This is the system prompt I'm writing. Your goal is to answer student questions, reduce confusion. Here's the persona. I'm giving it a style. And kind of my teacher said, I want you to be helpful, clear, supportive. I want you to focus on guidance. Do not do work. You must only use my documents and the university policies. Don't make stuff up. If you don't know the answer, have them contact me, set up appointments and Zoom and email me personally. What you can do, what you shouldn't do. Here's some conversational guidelines, right? I want you to be supportive, neutral. And then the default tool, I just left it normal. And then the knowledge I shared that Google Drive file of all my files and that PDF. So that's behind the scenes how I built this course assistant about. And I have this Google Doc later on if you want to use it as a way to kind of walk through and think through, or you can just do Kevin's technique, which is, hey, Gemini, help me design a prompt. And then you can iterate it like you do, go back and forth. Okay. We'll skip that. We have one of the challenges, definitely recommend this, EduGems.ai. This guy is an international expert on gems, and he's made teachers, we love templates. Let me just show you this real quick. He's made a whole gallery of all these templates. So, for example, you can say, I want to make a gem that will create a good lesson hook for me. So you can go ahead and use this gem here. Or you hit this button and you hack the URL code and it makes a copy of the gem and puts it into your Gemini that you can save and adapt. So again, there's a whole gallery of dozens of gems that he shared that you can copy and edit for your own. So definitely take a look at this website. It's a fantastic resource. Eric Kurtz, and he's got a good YouTube channel if you get super geeked out on chatbots.
He's the one that basically shows how to do the hack of being able to get the copy of it and access to it. Otherwise, we don't do it. We share it off so we can set the how we do this.
All right, any questions before we go into challenges about gems, chatbots? All right, Kevin, do you want to walk me through the challenges, the exercises?
Sure. Last week we had a number of challenges. We go from the easy down to the really hard. We had a couple very end on Google Gems and how to use those. There's basically trying out pre-made ones, but also trying out the ones I but there's also these, just trying to figure stuff out. You can start from the very beginning, you start walking through, get you some ideas of iteration and how to create a prompt. And try to make it very specific to K-12, so you can hopefully see things in there that you understand. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how to walk through, gives you some actual examples to use as well. But you can always go through some advanced challenges as well too. And then the two little gems. So we've got about In 45 minutes, we give you some time to go through and start moving through these. And then remember, you can also go through anything you do today, just save it to your journal and then turn it into an assignment and get your badge.
And these exercises are just suggestions. Hopefully you have a lot, how much people listening to that. So try to practice what you need to do for your own work and see if we can actually use your own lesson in applications to use adjustments. And please let us know if you have questions, or you have ideas, we can go around. Those of you get caught up, we can.
As I got into like exercise 3 and 4 and things, I just typed it in, hoping it would take what was already existing, and I said, make this now and it gave me a whole different lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and attached to the original prompts, and then it did what I wanted it to do. So don't do that mistake.
So it's getting confused with its context.
It just gave, like, it changed the lesson plan. It was the same standard and everything, but it changed the activity. Like, it changed, and I was like, I wanted to go with what they originally had given me. So when I copied the original command editor, and then added that to it, then it went back to the original.
Yeah. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go back a couple of chapters, I'll edit and then redo that.
And that's what I needed
Yeah.
to do, and that was a learning curve.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, so
Good.
if anyone else struggle, don't do that.
That's good. Well, yeah, that's a good. Anything else, please?
I created out the learning coach gym.
Yeah.
And I think it's being great for students that are missing any kind of like little piece of information that they missed along the way. It's very like engaging and helpful with the way that it's giving information, the little quizzes, making it, and I can see the students really liking this class, gamifying it.
Yeah.
And then going along, but also learning the information that they might have missed. So it's very much individualize that for the students that might have missed something along the way or not got the concept when we taught it the first time.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna share my report at the end with the tutor. The power for the students to get every student get a personalized tutoring. The students who get done with the lesson want to get challenged to go more, or the student missed the class is extra practice. Both those two students could be put onto this gym to spend the last 10 minutes in class, something like that. Absolutely. Anything else that you'd like to share with the group? Nothing would make Kevin and I happy if you guys took some of the stuff and be able to make better, faster lesson plans for your students. So again, I hope you can try this out over the next month. We'll be coming back to you guys next month to talk about other ideas. We promised I forget somebody asked about the environmental concerns with with AI, and we promised you do a little bit about that. I just want to do a quick 5 minutes or so to give you some background, because we get this a lot. Yeah, it's an important, it's ethical issue about our use for AI. But I've noticed there's been a common pattern with people that are regurgitating a lot of claims that were put out there in the media, and they haven't really gone a little bit deeper into what the actual environmental impact is. I found this fantastic article and a link to the podcast, which talks about the article. And this was done by a data scientist that looked at what the environmental output of a ChatGPT prompt was, right? And what they found is going 60 prompts with ChatGPT 4 all is the equivalent in carbon footprints and water usage as using your laptop for an hour, as watching a 44-minute Netflix video. So again, we've heard AI does have an impact. AI as a technology, all technologies has some kind of environmental impact. It needs to be proportional in relation to what, right? So this is kind of like one something that I like to just bring the data to discussion so we can talk in a more sophisticated, more accurate way. Because I've actually had people come up to me and say, hey, my daughter's in college and she told me that, Mom, you're wasting like 8 hours of water every time you do a check. That's not necessarily true. And I like to, it's my own little mythbuster mission is to make sure people understand the true impact and what that is in relation to other things that we do. The other point about this is, and this is something a good AI literacy tool to do with your students. What uses more.com? Someone made this little app and you can pick a task that you're doing with AI, and you can actually figure out what kind of environmental impact is. In fact, you see student comparisons of energy impact, and it gives the students a concrete example of what's the actual task and how much energy is being used. So that's a really nice tool for students to use. The last part I'll say when I always get questions about the AI impact on energy is not only does it have to be thought about proportionally, but what I'm really most excited about is the future of AI accelerating research in particularly clean energy and making things more efficient. So that's the third part we need to think about with AI, is as it gets smaller, it can make our system smarter, as it helps our researchers find material sciences. We're seeing a lot of progress already. The speed of science moving much faster. So there are three alternative ways to think about to add to the conversation when we talk about the impact of AI. All right, we're going to give you 2 minutes, please, to start the feedback. We got your feedback last time. Thank you so much. We passed it up. We used it for this time. If you would do that again, just real quick, for what you felt about today's session, and then we'll wrap up with 2 minutes, and then we can.
That's I need that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So much of our stuff is defaulted for the other day, and we have to, that's really it. Oh, we hit refresh. Now we should have.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. He wants to be first. Thank you. Yeah, this is the metaphor I was talking about, the tube and the twin. I just listened to a podcast that was talking about Alexander the Great. He had amazing tour and Aristotle as his twin. What you're experiencing right now is the potential for every course kids who have access, have both to generative AI to have somebody like an Aristotle as their person to. That's what's so exciting to me right now, what we're happening. In-person students learning how to use these technologies in ways that protect the dignity of learning, that show ability. If used correctly, they can have their own and Aristotle too. The other thing that excites me as an educator is we know how busy we are, we know how much we have on our plates. And if we could clone ourselves as a twin, there's so much more we could do to focus on the time with our students and to get deeper with the learning. So the tutor and the twin is a thing that I want to leave you with, is thinking about this next level of AI. If I'm starting to create my own AI for my students, for myself, I'll have the ability to create tutors that are going to help my students and create twins. They're going to help me with the teaching. So the big takeaways, hopefully you're seeing AI doesn't have to be a threat. If we look as a design partner, if we think about our backwards planning and think about big picture, what we're trying to do, objectives, assessments, and teaching, it could improve the instructional process. Yeah, and start something small. Again, we challenge you this month to see if we can help you create a unit plan, a lesson plan, a quiz, a test, like to help with your planning. So we hope you had something, some good takeaways today, and we'll be sticking around for the last 5 minutes. You have any other questions? And if not, I'll see you a month from now. Thank you again for your commitments.